the ghost beneath Europa. The war was not going well for humanity. Captain Eric Hale stood in the observation deck of the Europa Research Facility, watching ice crystals spiral past the reinforced glass. Beyond the frozen surface, Jupiter loomed like a silent god, its storms churning with indifferent beauty. He pressed his palm against the cold window and felt the vibration of construction machinery working kilometers below his feet. Down there, in a cavern carved from ancient ice, something impossible was being built. The Zyran Dominion had been crushing human colonies for 3 years. Their fleets moved like locusts across settled space, overwhelming defenses with sheer numbers and brutal efficiency. 12 colonies had fallen. Earth itself had narrowly survived 2 assault waves, saved only by sacrificing entire defensive fleets. Eric had commanded one of those fleets at the Battle of Titan's Edge. He had watched 23 ships burn under Zyran plasma fire while he retreated with the survivors. The screams on the comm channel still woke him at night. "Captain Hale, they're ready for you in the command briefing." He turned to see Commander Mara Voss standing in the doorway. She was younger than him by a decade but carried herself with the steady confidence of someone who had survived worse than war. Her dark eyes studied him with quiet assessment. She had lost her entire family when the Zyrans glassed the colony on Proxima 4. Unlike Eric, she did not carry her grief like a weight. She had transformed it into something colder and more useful. "How's the crew settling in?" Eric asked as they walked through narrow corridors carved from ice and reinforced with titanium. "Kieran is already arguing with the engineers about power distribution," Mara said. "Yui has memorized every star chart within 50 light-years. Rhea is running combat drills with security teams who don't want to be trained by a former insurgent." She paused. "They're exactly what we need." The briefing room was small and functional. Admiral Chin stood before a holographic display showing the Blackstar in rotating detail. The ship looked wrong in ways that made Eric's instincts prickle. Its hull was too smooth, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The engine configuration defied every principle of conventional propulsion. Weapon ports were minimal. It looked more like a predator than a warship. "The Zyrans fight with overwhelming force," Admiral Chin began without preamble. "They mass their fleets, saturate target zones with fire, and grind resistance into dust. Every engagement we've fought has followed their script. We match their strength and lose because they always have more ships." She gestured and the hologram shifted to show battle simulations. "Blackstar changes the script." Dr. Kieran Salas leaned forward, his eyes bright with the manic energy of someone who had not slept properly in weeks. He was thin and restless, fingers constantly moving as if working invisible equations in the air. "The dimensional rift engine doesn't move through space the way normal drives do," he said. "It creates temporary folds in spacetime. You don't travel between points, you bring the points together and step through. No acceleration curve, no predictable trajectory. You're here, then you're there, and physics takes a moment to catch up." "And the hull?" Eric asked. "Adaptive shadow alloy," Kieran said with evident pride. "It doesn't just absorb energy, it learns from it. Hit it with plasma and it becomes more resistant to plasma. Fire kinetics and the molecular structure shifts to disperse impact. The more they shoot at us, the harder we become to kill." He grinned. "It's beautiful." "It's untested," Mara said quietly. "We've run simulations but combat conditions are different." "Everything is untested until you test it," Kieran replied. Ensign Yui Aaron spoke for the first time, her voice soft but precise. She was barely 20, with the kind of calm focus that came from growing up on a deep space mining station where mistakes meant death. "Navigation through dimensional rifts requires real-time calculation of gravitational fields, spatial distortions and quantum probability matrices. The AI assists, but human intuition makes the final call." "I can do it." There was no arrogance in her tone, only statement of fact. Lieutenant Rhea Ward sat with her arms crossed, watching everyone with the wary assessment of someone who had spent years fighting occupation forces on a conquered colony. She had scars on her hands and a knife always within reach. "Great ship, great tech," she said. "But when the Zyrans board us, and they will try, can this crew handle close combat? Because I've fought them in corridors and have blocks. They don't quit." "Then you'll train everyone who needs it," Eric said. "We're not building a conventional crew. We're building something that can survive what's coming." Admiral Chin brought up a new display. Red markers spread across human space like an infection. Zyran forces are massing for a final offensive. Intelligence suggests they're committing everything to a strike on Earth. If they succeed, humanity loses its command center, its industrial heart, and its will to fight. We estimate 3 weeks before they launch the assault. She looked directly at Eric. Blackstar isn't ready. The systems are barely integrated. But we're out of time. The room fell silent. Eric studied the ship rotating in holographic light. It represented everything humanity could create when pushed to desperation. Innovation born from necessity, brilliance forged in the fire of extinction. But it was also a gamble. One ship against an armada. One crew against an empire. We've spent 3 years learning how to die fighting the Zyrans, Eric said slowly. Maybe it's time we learned how to make them afraid. Kieran's grin widened. Mara nodded once. Yui's expression remained calm. Ria's hand drifted to her knife in what might have been anticipation. Admiral Chin deactivated the hologram. You launch in 72 hours. Mission parameters are simple. Disrupt the Zyran offensive by Earth time to prepare defenses and survive. Show them that humanity has teeth. She paused. And Captain Hale, bring your people home this time. The word struck like a blade. Eric held her gaze and nodded. Later, standing alone in the hangar where the Blackstar rested in darkness, Eric placed his hand on the strange hull. It felt cold and alive at the same time, humming with potential energy. Somewhere above, Jupiter turned in endless storm. Somewhere beyond, the Zyran fleets were gathering. For 3 years, humanity had been prey. But prey could evolve. Prey could adapt. And sometimes prey learned to hunt back. The Blackstar waited in silence, ready to teach the galaxy that lesson. First blood. The Blackstar slipped from Europa's shadow like a whisper made solid. Eric watched the ice moon fall away on the main display, Jupiter's massive form dominating half the view. The bridge was quiet except for the low hum of systems coming online. Every station glowed with soft blue light. The crew moved with focused precision, each person aware that this moment, this first flight, would define everything that followed. All systems green, Mara reported from her station. Dimensional rift engine is stable. Shadow alloy hull integrity at maximum. Weapons online but running cold. Navigation ready, Yui said softly. Her fingers danced across holographic controls, inputting calculations that would have taken a normal navigator hours. Quantum pathways mapped. Ready to execute rift jump on your command. Kieran looked up from the engineering console, his face illuminated by cascading data streams. The engine is purring like a very dangerous cat. First jump might feel weird. Your inner ear won't know what to do with nonlinear movement. Try not to vomit on the nice new bridge. Encouraging as always, Ria muttered from tactical. She was studying combat scenarios, running through boarding defense protocols. Her team was stationed at key points throughout the ship, ready for anything. Eric settled into the command chair. It molded to him slightly, the ship's systems reading his biometrics and adjusting for optimal comfort. He could feel the Blackstar around him, not just metal and machinery but something almost alive. The shadow alloy hull seemed to breathe. Take us out of Sol System, Ensign Aaron, he said. Standard drive until we're clear of planetary gravity wells. Then we test the rift engine. Yes, sir. The ship accelerated smoothly, Luna passing below them, then Mars appearing as a distant red point. Earth hung behind them like a blue jewel wrapped in white clouds. Eric stared at it for a long moment. Somewhere down there, billions of people continued their lives unaware that humanity's last desperate gamble was launching into the dark. When they reached the outer system, Yui turned to face him. Ready for rift jump, Captain. Execute. Reality twisted. Eric's stomach lurched as space folded in ways his brain couldn't process. The stars didn't streak or blur, they simply stopped being in one place and started being in another. For a fraction of a heartbeat, he existed in 2 locations simultaneously. Then the universe snapped back into coherence and they were light years away, hanging in the empty dark between star systems. Kieran laughed with pure delight. It works. It actually works. We just moved 14 light years in 3 seconds. Several crew members were fighting nausea. Mara's hand gripped her console but her voice remained steady. All systems stable. No structural stress. The shadow alloy adapted to the dimensional transition. That was deeply unpleasant, Ria said, looking slightly green. But effective. Eric felt his equilibrium returning. How many jumps can we make before the engine needs to cycle? Theoretically unlimited if we keep them short, Kieran said. Longer jumps require more power and longer cooldown periods. But for combat? We can rift in, strike, rift out and do it again almost immediately. We'll be everywhere and nowhere. Good. Eric pulled up tactical displays showing the latest intelligence on Zyran fleet movements. Red markers clustered near the Kepler colony, a mining outpost that had gone dark 3 days ago. Intelligence picked up Zyran signals in the Kepler sector. Small occupation force, probably looting resources before the main fleet moves on Earth. We're going to hit them. Mara looked at him sharply. Our mission is to disrupt the main offensive. And we will, Eric said. But first, this crew needs to learn how to fight in this ship. Better to learn against a small force than against the Armada. He met her eyes. And those are human colonists under Zyran occupation. If we can save them, we do. Mara held his gaze for a moment, then nodded. Agreed. They made 3 more rift jumps, each one becoming slightly less disorienting as their bodies adjusted to the impossible movement. When they emerged on the edge of the Kepler system, tactical sensors immediately lit up with contacts. I have 6 Zyran cruisers in orbit around Kepler Prime, Rhea reported. Standard occupation formation. They're not expecting trouble, shields are minimal, weapons powered down. They're harvesting the colony's orbital facilities. Eric studied the formation. 6 cruisers, each one larger and more heavily armed than any human destroyer. In a conventional engagement, even one would be a serious threat. 6 would be overwhelming. But the Blackstar was not conventional. UE plot micro-jumps, he said. We hit the rear cruiser first, full weapons, then rift out before they can return fire. Mara, coordinate targeting solutions. Kieran, I want maximum power to weapons and engines. Rhea, prepare for possible boarding actions if any of them get close. The crew moved with focused intensity. No hesitation, no doubt. They had trained for this moment. Rift jump in 3, 1. The Blackstar appeared directly behind the rearmost Zyran cruiser, close enough that tactical sensors screamed proximity warnings. For 1 frozen second, the Zyran ship hung before them, completely unaware. Then every weapon on the Blackstar fired at once. Rail cannons tore through the cruiser's engines. Plasma lances carved molten wounds through armor. Missile salvos struck the reactor housing in precise coordinated impacts. The Zyran ship erupted in cascading explosions, breaking apart in a bloom of fire and debris. Rift jump now, Eric commanded. Reality twisted again and they were gone, reappearing 20,000 kilometers away as the other 5 Zyran cruisers scrambled to respond. Alarms blared across enemy ships. Weapons came online. Shields blazed to full power. They turned with ponderous inevitability, searching for an attacker that was no longer there. They're confused, Mara said, studying tactical data. They can't track our jump signature. To them we just appeared, killed their ship, and vanished. Let's do it again, Eric said. Target the command cruiser. Same pattern. They rifted in from above, descending like a falling shadow. The Blackstar's weapons spoke again and the command cruiser's bridge section exploded in a fountain of atmosphere and bodies. But this time the other Zyran ships were ready. Plasma fire lashed out, catching the Blackstar's flank as they jumped away. The ship shuddered. Alarms chirped. Then fell silent. Damage report, Eric said sharply. Kieran was staring at his displays with wonder. The shadow alloy absorbed the impact. Not just dispersed it, absorbed it. Hull integrity actually increased. The molecular structure learned from the attack. He looked up, eyes wide. They're making us stronger. The remaining 4 Zyran cruisers had formed a defensive cluster, all shields facing outward, weapons tracking in all directions. They were adapting, trying to defend against an enemy that could strike from anywhere. But they were thinking in 3 dimensions. The Blackstar operated in 4. Micro-jump inside their formation, Eric said. Put us right in the center. Yui's fingers flew across her controls. Calculating, that's extremely high risk, Captain. If the rift collapses while we're materializing. Can you do it? She met his eyes. Yes, sir. Then do it. The universe folded inside out and suddenly they were surrounded by Zyran cruisers, close enough to see hull details on the enemy ships. For one perfect moment, all 4 enemy vessels were pointed outward, every weapon facing the wrong direction. The Blackstar fired in all directions at once. Rail cannons, plasma lances, and missiles struck 4 targets simultaneously. At point-blank range, even Zyran shields couldn't hold. Explosions rippled across hulls. Reactors went critical. Ships broke apart in brilliant cascades of destruction. Then they were gone again, rifting clear as the Kepler system filled with debris and fading fire. Silence filled the bridge. The crew stared at tactical displays showing 6 destroyed Zyran cruisers and 1 intact human ship. Colony defenses report they're reading the area as clear, Mara said quietly. The colonists are hailing us. They're asking who we are. Eric leaned back in his chair, feeling the adrenaline drain away. His hands were shaking slightly. They had just won. Completely. A perfect victory against a force that should have destroyed them. Tell them? He began, then paused. What were they? Not just a ship. Not just a crew. Something new. Something the galaxy hadn't seen before. Tell them humanity fights back. Kieran was laughing again, this time with relief. Yui allowed herself a small smile. Rhea nodded in satisfaction. Mara caught Eric's eye and he saw something like hope there. But as they prepared to jump back toward Sol System, tactical sensors picked up something else. Long-range scans detecting massive gravitic distortions at the edge of known space. Something huge. Something moving. The Zyran Armada was on its way to Earth. And now the real battle would begin. The hunters. The Zyran Armada filled space like a plague of metal locusts. Eric stood on the bridge of the Blackstar, watching the tactical display with cold focus. 347 enemy warships formed a wall of destruction advancing toward Earth. Battlecruisers the size of cities. Carrier vessels pregnant with fighter swarms. Destroyers bristling with enough firepower to crack continents. The largest Zyran fleet ever assembled, committed to one purpose: the complete annihilation of humanity's homeworld. Earth Defense Fleet is moving to intercept, Mara reported. Admiral Chin is deploying everything we have left. 212 ships. Her voice remained calm, but the mathematics were brutal. Humanity was outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting for survival. Kieran pulled up power distribution readouts. The Rift engine is fully charged. Shadow alloy hull has adapted to every weapon signature we encountered at Kepler. We're as ready as we'll ever be. One ship against an armada, Rhea said. She wasn't complaining, just stating fact. Even with rift jumps, we can't destroy them all. What's the play, Captain? Eric studied the enemy formation. The Zyrans fought with overwhelming coordinated force. Their command structure was rigid and hierarchical. Every ship followed precise tactical doctrine, responding to orders from fleet command vessels that directed the swarm. It was brutally effective, like trying to fight an avalanche by throwing rocks at individual snowflakes. But what if you could remove the snowflakes that started the avalanche? We don't fight the fleet, Eric said. We cut off its head. Yui, can you identify their command vessels? The young navigator's fingers danced across holographic controls. Scanning comm traffic and fleet positioning. Yes. I'm identifying 6 command battlecruisers coordinating fleet movements. They're positioned in the center of the formation, heavily protected by screening vessels. Then that's where we're going, Eric said. We rift directly into their center, kill the command ships, and jump out before they can respond. Without coordination, the fleet becomes a mob. Earth defense can exploit the chaos. That's insane, Kieran said with obvious admiration. The center of their formation will have the highest concentration of overlapping fire. We'll be taking hits from every direction. And the shadow alloy will learn from every hit, Eric replied. The more they shoot at us, the stronger we become. We're not trying to outlast them, we're trying to make them panic. Mara nodded slowly. It could work, but we'll only get one pass. Once they understand what we're doing, they'll adapt their formation. Then we make the first pass count. Eric opened a comm channel to the entire crew. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to jump into the heart of the Zyran Armada. It's going to be rough. But remember Kepler, remember what this ship can do. We've spent 3 years learning to die fighting the Zyrans. Today we teach them what it means to fight us. He paused. Humanity is counting on us. Let's show them what we're made of. The crew responded with quiet affirmation. No grand speeches, no cheers. Just professionals preparing to do an impossible job. Jump on my mark, Eric said. 3, 2, 1, execute. Reality shattered and reformed. The Blackstar materialized in the densest concentration of enemy ships in human history. Zyran vessels surrounded them on all sides, above, below, forward, aft. For one frozen heartbeat, hundreds of enemy sensors locked onto their position simultaneously. Then hell erupted. The command battlecruiser directly ahead never had time to raise shields. The Blackstar's full weapons array fired at point-blank range, rail cannons punching through the massive ship's command structure like paper. Explosions rippled through the vessel as its reactor containment failed. The battlecruiser broke in half, trailing atmosphere and bodies. Second target, port side. Mara called out coordinates and the Blackstar twisted with impossible agility, weapon systems tracking faster than human reflexes. Another command ship died in fire. But now the Zyran fleet was responding. Plasma fire converged from dozens of directions. Kinetic rounds hammered the hull. Energy weapons scorched across the shadow alloy armor. The Blackstar shuddered under impacts that would have vaporized any conventional vessel. And the hull adapted. Eric watched in fascination as damage readouts flickered and stabilized. Each impact made the armor stronger, more resistant. The molecular structure was learning in real time, transforming enemy attacks into evolutionary pressure. The ship was becoming something new with every passing second. Third Command Vessel, bearing 270. Yui's voice remained steady despite the chaos. The Blackstar riffed 3,000 kilometers in an eye blink, appearing behind another battlecruiser and gutting it with concentrated fire before jumping again. The Zyran formation was collapsing into confusion. Ships collided trying to track an enemy that appeared and vanished without pattern. Commanders screamed orders into comm channels already overloaded with conflicting data. Fighter squadrons launched and immediately lost their target. The perfect coordination that made Zyran fleets unstoppable was fragmenting into chaos. Fourth Command Ship destroyed, Rhea reported with grim satisfaction. Their fleet cohesion is breaking down. I'm reading multiple collisions and friendly fire incidents. But they couldn't keep this up forever. The Rift engine was running hot. Power reserves were depleting. And despite the Shadow Alloy's adaptation, the sheer volume of fire was beginning to overwhelm even enhanced defenses. 2 more command vessels remain, Mara said. But Captain, we need to jump clear soon. We're taking cumulative damage faster than the hull can adapt. Eric made the calculation in heartbeats. 2 more targets. 2 more jumps. Then they could withdraw and let Earth defense exploit the chaos they'd created. 1 more pass, he said. Yui, plot a jump that takes us through both remaining command vessels. Weapons, prepare to fire along our entire trajectory. We're going to cut through them like a blade. That's not how rift jumps work, Kieran protested. We move instantaneously, there's no through space. Then make it work, Eric said. You told me this ship bends physics. Prove it. For a moment, Kieran stared at him. Then a wild grin spread across his face. You magnificent bastard. Yes, I can do that. His fingers flew across engineering controls, rerouting power and modifying rift parameters on the fly. I'm creating a controlled rift collapse. We'll exist partially in normal space as we jump, basically dragging our weapons fire through dimensional boundaries. It's completely untested and probably unstable. Perfect, Eric said. Execute. The Blackstar jumped, but this time it didn't vanish completely. Instead it became a ghost, a dimensional blade cutting through space itself. Weapons fired continuously as they slashed through the heart of the 2 remaining command battlecruisers. Rail rounds and plasma lances tore through both massive vessels simultaneously, carving wounds through armor, through decks, through reactors. Both command ships exploded as the Blackstar fully materialized on the far side of the Zyran formation. And suddenly the Armada had no head. 347 ships became 347 individual vessels, each acting on outdated orders, each unable to coordinate with the others. The perfect swarm became a confused mob. Earth defense is engaging, Mara reported. They're exploiting the gaps in Zyran formation. Enemy fleet is beginning to break apart. Eric watched the tactical display transform. The red tide that had threatened to engulf Earth was fragmenting. Some Zyran ships tried to maintain formation. Others retreated. Still others continued attacking but without coordination, their firepower wasted on targets already destroyed or positions already abandoned. Humanity's defense fleet swept through them like wolves through scattered sheep. We did it, Rhea said quietly. We actually did it. But Eric was studying something else on long-range sensors. Kieran noticed his expression and pulled up the same data. Captain, what am I looking at? Beyond the battle, beyond the fragmenting Zyran armada, sensors were detecting something massive. Something that made the entire enemy fleet look small. Gravitational anomalies that shouldn't exist. Energy signatures that defied known physics. Mara enhanced the readings and her face went pale. We're picking up encrypted Zyran communications. Emergency broadcasts. They're not retreating toward their territory, they're retreating away from something else. Eric felt ice settle in his stomach. The Zyrans hadn't come to conquer Earth. They had come fleeing from something worse. And humanity's new weapon, the Blackstar with its reality-bending engine and adaptive hull, had just announced humanity's existence to whatever was out there in the dark. Get me Admiral Chen, Eric said quietly. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, tired but relieved. Captain Hale. Remarkable work. Earth defense is mopping up what's left of the Zyran fleet. You saved us. That's not how rift jumps work, Kieran protested. We move instantaneously, there's no through space. Then make it work, Eric said. You told me this ship bends physics. Prove it. For a moment, Kieran stared at him. Then a wild grin spread across his face. You magnificent bastard. Yes, I can do that. His fingers flew across engineering controls, rerouting power and modifying rift parameters on the fly. I'm creating a controlled rift collapse. We'll exist partially in normal space as we jump, basically dragging our weapons fire through dimensional boundaries. It's completely untested and probably unstable. Perfect, Eric said. Execute. The Blackstar jumped, but this time it didn't vanish completely. Instead it became a ghost, a dimensional blade cutting through space itself. Weapons fired continuously as they slashed through the heart of the two remaining command battlecruisers. Rail rounds and plasma lances tore through both massive vessels simultaneously, carving wounds through armor, through decks, through reactors. Both command ships exploded as the Blackstar fully materialized on the far side of the Zyran formation. And suddenly the Armada had no head. 347 ships became 347 individual vessels, each acting on outdated orders, each unable to coordinate with the others. The perfect swarm became a confused mob. Earth defense is engaging, Mara reported. They're exploiting the gaps in Zyran formation. Enemy fleet is beginning to break apart. Eric watched the tactical display transform. The red tide that had threatened to engulf Earth was fragmenting. Some Zyran ships tried to maintain formation. Others retreated. Still others continued attacking but without coordination, their firepower wasted on targets already destroyed or positions already abandoned. Humanity's defense fleet swept through them like wolves through scattered sheep. We did it, Rhea said quietly. We actually did it. But Eric was studying something else on long-range sensors. Kieran noticed his expression and pulled up the same data. Captain, what am I looking at? Beyond the battle, beyond the fragmenting Zyran armada, sensors were detecting something massive. Something that made the entire enemy fleet look small. Gravitational anomalies that shouldn't exist. Energy signatures that defied known physics. Mara enhanced the readings and her face went pale. We're picking up encrypted Zyran communications. Emergency broadcasts. They're not retreating toward their territory, they're retreating away from something else. Eric felt ice settle in his stomach. The Zyrans hadn't come to conquer Earth. They had come fleeing from something worse. And humanity's new weapon, the Blackstar with its reality-bending engine and adaptive hull, had just announced humanity's existence to whatever was out there in the dark. Get me Admiral Chen, Eric said quietly. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, tired but relieved. Captain Hale. Remarkable work. Earth defense is mopping up what's left of the Zyran fleet. You saved us. Admiral, we have a problem, Eric said. The Zyrans weren't invading. They were running. And I think we just got the attention of whatever they were running from. Admiral Chen's relief faded into grim understanding. What do you need? Eric looked around the bridge. His crew, Mara with her quiet competence, Kieran with his brilliant chaos, Yui with her preternatural calm, Rhea with her warrior's edge. They had taken one ship and broken an armada. They had transformed humanity from prey into predator. Now they would need to do it again. Against something worse. We need to stop hiding, Eric said. Whatever is coming, we can't run from it. We need to be ready. We need more ships like Blackstar. We need humanity to become something the galaxy has never seen before, not victims, not refugees, but hunters. You're talking about changing everything, Admiral Chen said. I'm talking about survival, Eric replied. The galaxy thinks humans are prey. It's time we showed them what we really are. Far beyond the battle, something vast stirred in the darkness between stars. Ancient. Hungry. Drawn by the unique energy signature of a ship that could fold space itself. But if it came hunting for prey, it would find something unexpected. It would find humanity. Armed, dangerous, and done with running. The Blackstar hung in space, scarred but unbroken, its adaptive hull already healing from battle damage. Inside, Captain Eric Hale and his crew prepared for whatever would come next. The war with the Zyrans was over. The real war was just beginning. And this time humanity would not be the prey.